I tell you, she is funny.
Yeah.
She'll come up to me, like I'll be on a call and she'll be like, hey, you feed the chickens? I was like, Ma, you see, clearly I'm on camera right now.
But did you feed the question is, why aren't we doing this outside where I can see you feeding the chickens? So, welcome to another episode of Shaken Not Stirred. I'm Christy Mazelman. I'm the Executive Director of Cultural DC. And with me today is the amazing Sheldon Scott. Hi, Sheldon.
Hey, Christy. Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing? First off, where are you? Are you hunkered down in DC or are you with your family?
I left DC, I think maybe March 17th.
Wow.
I've been
Dodge.
Yeah, I've been down in South Carolina and my hometown of Pawleys Island here with my mom and family now for a little over 2 months.
Yeah. Are you going to come back?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to come back.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back with some new life lessons, but definitely going to come back.
Yeah.
It's just like, I wasn't very sure of my survival skills. So I was like, best thing to do is run home to my mama.
Yeah. You're not the only person that's told me they've done that.
Yeah. And I just don't know like how, easy it would be to be in DC.
Yeah.
In my apartment by myself, unable to see my friends and hang out. I would probably be one of those irresponsible people out there, not social distancing, trying to hang out and do stuff like that. And, and it was a great opportunity to just slow down.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah.
And, like being down here in the South in a rural area, it's like I could go days without seeing a stranger. I could walk for miles and not see anybody.
Yeah.
Might see some wildlife, but it's good to be able to have that, particularly for like the way that I think and my kind of wiring, I would need that.
Yeah. So are you taking this time to like take a break from work or making work or?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The artistic practice is, it's in a new space. I'm still working, Eaton is, still trying to figure out like where we're going to be in this like next thing. Like, we don't have any interest in going back to normal, because normal was just not a good space.
Right.
And we're doing that every day. So figuring that out, so Eaton's been keeping me busy in work, but like being able to kind of sit back with my practice, especially since like my work here of late has really been more deeply connected to my roots here.
Yeah.
It's
well,
good.
You're coming off a really intense like performance at the National Portrait Gallery.
Yeah, I second that. And intense in ways that I just didn't really anticipate. Like, I think I had a pretty good grasp on like the physical challenges. But my gosh, a 73-hour meditation it's a lot psychologically.
Yeah.
So it's a whole lot.
It's really interesting talking to performance artists that have, you have this one experience when you're in the moment. And then I think when you step away, you really can reflect on that performance in a different way. And sometimes it can change your perspective on it and change a lot. And I think that's really interesting to see, to kind of revisit that, like however long after.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like that for me, like, those hours, I think even like, shooting the film, which was a 14-hour day that resulted in a 12-hour and 20-minute film, that was one thing. And then I had some time and some space, but then I also had like, deadlines and so many other things. So it was largely all kinds of distraction and getting ready for the big, 73-hour piece in the museum. And, I kind of think of those as like, that was an event, but it didn't become an experience. It wasn't endowed until later, until after, I was able to look back at it and reflect on it and experience it in a different way, because like obviously the way that I experienced it as the artist, like in that moment, is completely different on how I look back at it now as a bit of a spectator and looking at that work and looking at like the impact and the way that that work landed in the institution and some of the responses and some of the debriefs that came out of it. You know, and and it is a completely different process, you know, a completely different process. And, you know, it's very interesting now knowing that I'm going to have to revisit that performance in one way at least, you know, 4 more times, you know, in the next 2.5 years or so as Outwind travels. This gives me a whole different kind of anxiety
Yeah.
going into it into the second, third, and possibly fourth time.
Well, what do you think that will look like? Have you started to think or how it might change, or how kind of everything that's going on in the world today might impact any of that?
Gosh. I just cannot imagine, you know, like what really happened there, like, you know, because there definitely was an arc, there was a change that happened during the actual piece, you know, and it ended up becoming kind of a shrine for this ancestral healing for all people, even though like the gateway and the bridge, the framework was the enslaved African and American, but like there's so many people from so many different life experiences that came and got to participate in some part of the ancestral healing for themselves. So, and I'm just interested in seeing like how that healing process becomes more personal,
Yeah.
you know, with people being, you know, obviously at that point, whenever it's back up, like on the other side or a different side of COVID, you know, for the people that we lost and weren't able to mourn, I imagine that the experience will be that much more personal and subsequently more powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, I mean, even thinking about this time period, and so much of your work, you know, kind of deals with the intersection of race and economics and sexuality, and just thinking about how race plays such a role in your work, and just thinking about what has happened kind of in our world, you know, as it relates to race over the last like couple of weeks, couple of months. It just seems like there's a continued escalation, and I feel like that starts to seep into everything.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like there's so many things that COVID has exposed, like, you know, exposed like the fragility of the system that we have here.
Yeah.
You know, how hundreds of years of like this economic and social and political expression can just come crashing down in a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
And, you know, within that we see, you know, these exposures of, you know, our racialized way of thinking and how that has hindered us. And, you know, just how we think that somehow that there's a possibility within the close quarters of this country that we can somehow separate or designate ourselves based on race and class and these other non-factors that we put so much value in. You know, how at the end of the day, like we are so deeply, you know, interconnected and intermeshed and you know, intersections on our day-to-day basis,
Mm-hmm.
that we can't avoid our own humanity. And no matter how we try to parse up that humanity,
Yeah.
based on these factors, like there's no denying it, like, you know, like, and then we see where our system fails, where like, you know, people who are, you know, within a certain demographic are, you know, obviously experiencing this in a completely different way, and how people of privilege have been able to, you know, escape to the margins and avoid, like, you know, because I'm one of those people who left, you know, a potential hotspot,
Mm-hmm.
and had the luxury and the ability to do that and to get out early. And that just says something about like our values in our society, because like, you know, this really should be, you know, for all intents and purposes, a place that is really focused and valued on taking care of those with the least.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what that really says, because these things that we're doing are really, you know, like me leaving DC is really a folly. You know, it's like I'm not going to escape the disease or
Right.
the challenge fully, but you know, it gives me a sense of you know, safety and security that is, you know, connected to my privilege to be able to like pick up and just leave.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
There were like some points while I was here,
Yeah.
like, you know, we planted a garden in the backyard. Our kitten had kittens. I don't know how she got pregnant that quickly, but she got pregnant before we had the opportunity to fix her.
Yeah.
And then she had 4 beautiful kittens, you know, the chickens. And man, it was just something about that life, you know, and kind of shortening the feedback loop, you know, with planting a garden and watching something come out of the ground.
Yeah.
And, you know, the cat being saved, the chicken, you know, surviving, although one of the chickens did die. This is old age. But man, it was something to the value of that life and that balance. Yeah. And I'm thinking about, you know, living in the world that I've been living in mostly, where you're fighting, you know, racial injustice, you know, homophobia, you know, socioeconomic terrorism, like, you know, spending those time fighting those big ideas and then coming home and just feeding the chickens.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, man, I need more of this balance in my life. And I don't know, you know, what that means for me when I, you know, when we're back in DC full time, you know, am I
chickens on the roof of Eaton?
What, you know, I was like having a sustainable wildlife,
Yeah.
part of, you know, even on the roof of my building, you know, growing a little garden, you know, maybe getting
it's
some.
Nice. It's nice like, to have the time to do that. I feel like every year I plant it and then I like end up traveling and then it never gets watered and then it all, you know, but being here and being able to focus on those, I mean, we're cutting like heads of romaine lettuce and like eating them and like, and they're growing back and it's like kind of cool.
And there's something about like that direct feedback from the world and your work, because it can be really hard and disheartening, you know, because, you know, you think you're trying to like make a dent in the world, and then you have like, you know, Arbery, like you have situations like that, and Breonna Taylor, like, you know, it's like you're already in a space of psychosocial and emotional stress.
Yeah.
And, you know, with COVID, and then to have incidences like these still be at play, I mean, it's really, really tough. And I think sometimes, you know, I've been speaking to some friends of mine who do this kind of work and who are very much like leading like activism platforms. Like they, you know, they all have seen this as an opportunity for, you know, them to reset and heighten their self-care and actually, you know, understand what their survival looks like on the other side of this. And I think for everyone, it's like, we got to bring more balance to our work. Yeah. You know, we have to bring more balance to like our practice and our communities. Like, you know, our communities can't be just people just like us who are doing the same kind of work like us, because that is something I found to be really deceiving, because when that becomes a part of our practice and it becomes a part of our daily life, you know, it becomes our religion. Mm-hmm. And like, you know, we're all practicing the same liturgy. So it's really hard to get some nuanced experience. And, you know, you're not going to have anybody in my group of friends being like, yo, Sheldon, you need to plant your corn. It's, you know, you got 2 weeks left, you know, before you get this in the ground. And, you know, we need those type of people in our lives as well, too, because they'll help to remind us like what our balance really looks like. Because our balance really does not look like going to a yoga class once or twice a week. That ain't shit. You know?
I think too, like I've seen it as we've struggled.
I love yoga. Sorry, but you know, I'm not saying that, you know.
No, I don't go to yoga. I don't think I'm not a yoga person, if you can tell. But I mean, I think we see that even with with my 6-year-old, because like, I think we are fighting the homeschooling thing, and she's fighting the homeschooling thing. And I think, you know, we've chosen, like, we can only fight so much about it, but let's think about all the other things we can focus her attention on, and the other priorities about like teaching her to grow her own food, and, you know, spending that time to talk about what's going on. And it's a totally different, you know, we've just chosen to focus on kind of other life lessons that she never gets to focus on, that like they're not talking about in school. And I think it's, you know, We'll see how like everybody emerges from this. I think the little humans are gonna, who knows? I mean, who knows when they'll go back to schools, but you know.
Yeah, who knows when that might happen, yeah. But, I'll say even like, the responsibility of life just in general, what it might mean to like come to understand like what the responsibility of taking care of life might be by raising some baby chicks or raising some kittens, and
yeah,
like, the life lessons and those kinds of things that you don't get in school
don't
anymore.
say that too loud. My daughter would love the opportunity to raise a baby kitten, and
but like what are those like big life lessons, like those kinds of things that we used to kind of get when we were in school and there was like home economics? Is like,
I loved home economics.
yeah, it's like what else are we teaching, like like basic survival skills, like how can you eat, like if imagine if Grubhub wasn't around or something like that, yeah, people might die.
Yeah.
And then it's just the importance of it,
yeah,
and what it does for your life and your wellness to just like cook your own food.
Yeah.
And then from by an extension to grow your own food or have a relationship with the farmer or the market. And, it's like, I think this thing that we've been having, like Marvin Gaye said, like, this ain't living.
Yeah.
This ain't living. Like, they tricked us.
So what's next for you? So you're going to continue this traveling thing. You're working on, so like, what are we going to see next from you in DC here?
It's going to be interesting. I don't know. I mean, I have to figure out like, what the world, what my world is actually interested in putting out there. Something that I've already committed myself to is balancing a lot of my practice, because I mean, a lot of the work that I've been done is that I've done has been really laborious, and it's like,
yeah,
I put a lot of Black labor out there in the world, and I already committed myself to putting out Black leisure, into that conversation. So I think you're going to see, more of that. You're going to see, less of the breaking down of the body, but the rebuilding of the body, the making whole. Taking license, to taking privilege, to taking, a little bit more, ownership in the care of my body. And, hopefully that serves as a metaphor and for the larger world, so people can, because I think we don't have the mediatized references, that people get most of the information from. And, we don't have that storytelling canon where care of the Black male form is something that people can actually learn to do.
Yeah.
And and it's like, and if I have to, really start to look at how that curriculum can be written for a broader world to learn what it means and what it takes to care for a body like mine, then that's probably what you're going to see. I think, I definitely want to do more storytelling again, because I just, I love that work, and that's so deeply rooted into my history. And I think that the visual and fine art practice, you're going to see a little more, hopefully like more work that's accessible, more performance. Like, I really like the thing that you all brought me to do in conversation with the barbershop project with Devin. I thought that was, that was a really good opportunity for me to explore some new things within my practice that, doesn't necessarily carry the same weight as like, some of the work that I've done and some of the work that I've done in the institution. And, the last performance piece, because it was a very contemporary conversation, hyper contemporary conversation, cross-generational conversation with Black men, with the kind of all wrapped in the construct of care for each other. I appreciate that. And I want to do more of that. And, I think that, a practice that brings me closer and closer to people, which is something that's very, antithetical to like art practice and the kind of established art market. Like, as artists become more well-known or more well regarded for their work, they become more and more distant from like, you know, the general populations and the public and the communities that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and I think that that's something that I just want to actively work, you know, against in my own practice, and making sure that I'm staying connected, particularly as people are going to come out of this and trying to figure out, you know,
People
what
are craving connection. They're going to crave it. They crave it now, and I think that's going to be such an important thing.
and meaningful connection too. And I think this is, you know, if, you know, as we start to figure out like what things that have come out of this, and, you know, I don't want to reduce this all to a conversation around like silver linings, because there's so much life and loss that, you know, has been impacted by this. But one of the things that could really, I think, retone or retemper human connection is the value of moving from the fourth dimension and people moving back into, you know, sharing space and just being in contact with with each other. You know, once there's no more risk, and, you know, we don't have to mitigate that, and it's no longer a question of life and death, I think people are going to be, you know, really appreciative and like really value the power of each other's presence.
Yeah, I think we take it for granted.
Well, we do.
Yeah,
we do.
And certainly that's like present now more than ever. You know, I think.
Well, maybe, you know, maybe we'll be able to, you know, really come back on this, and like, you know, because like empathy is something that, you know, there's like all kinds of research out there how like the fourth dimension and these digital experiences have really compromised empathy. And, you know, maybe this is something that could really help us as a whole to rebuild our empathetic muscles.
Mm-hmm.
And really come to understand each other, and then ultimately ourselves.
Yeah. Great. Well, Sheldon, this has been wonderful to see you.
Yeah, so good to see you. Thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for like creating an opportunity for people to kind of share and connect and talk through these things, because I think so much a part of like our own personal healings is like how we all heal together.
Yeah.
And I just see how, you know, it's critically important for artists, you know, to be able to like come into a space, decompress, share ideas, share thoughts, and also share kind of honestly like where they are.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
and
I think so.
figuring out where we're all going to go after this.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. I can't wait to see you back in DC soon. Take care of those chickens and the cats, and let me know how that corn comes up.
I certainly will. I might bring some stuff back with me.
I want to see Farmer Sheldon. I want to meet Farmer Sheldon.
Awesome. You know, I might start doing some documentation and just sharing it out in the world.
Please, so we can post it with this.
It's like my whole new life. I want to be too encouraged though, because people be like, "Stay, don't come back. We love you, but like you look so happy."
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Sheldon.
All right.
We'll talk to you
Cheers.
soon. All righty. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.